Welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about how to create APIs. So whenever you add anything to your web page, like this heading and paragraph, these are all static elements. So whenever you want to do something dynamic, like call the server to, for example, call Google or OpenAI or Facebook, whatever, then the client side, the page needs to make a call to the server. And that call in turn is known as the API. So in WebDigital, these APIs are always in JavaScript, so specifically Node.js. And you can add an API very easily over here for a component. So we're going to be adding a little API call over here. And the default API call is very simple. We're just taking two parameters and we're returning test. So it's a very simple call. You can modify this obviously in any way that you want. You can import third-party libraries. Like you can actually add NPM libraries. But that's a different video altogether. So just the basics of it. This is our core call. And what we want to do is we want to demonstrate how to call the server from the client side, from this button. So when I click on this button, it's going to be calling the server. That's not the only way that we can call the server. It can be called in many different ways. But one of the standard ones is when you click on a button. So in over here, we're going to be adding an event. And by default, it's the click event. You can add many different types of events. And when you add that, it basically adds it to the component class. You can see it created a class for the component, and it automatically added this function. So this is the script to be run when the element is being clicked. So on button one click, we're going to be doing something. And the button one is over here. So when you edit that, you can see that the JavaScript event for the click is going to that on button click. That's basically a method in the component. So what we want to do here is we're going to be calling the API. So what I want to do is const result, and this needs to be an async call. And we have a standard method for calling an API. So when you say this dot call API, this is going to be calling the API. So the first parameter is the API name. In this case, we called it test. And the arguments, we can pass anything. So let me just, and it can be any type. So I'll call the first one PRM2 and the second one just the number 2. And then what I want to do is I want to console log whatever comes out. Now, but you can minimize this by hitting Control-Shift-M. So, and Control-Shift-M maximizes the window, Control-Shift-M minimizes the window, and you can save this. Yeah, that's basically saving it. There are other types of server calls that you can do. Like I said, there's other events, but there's also the mount and unmount events of the component. So you can actually call the server, for example, whenever you're initializing a component with the mount event. And that's added with the component did mount. So you can see over here when you start typing component did mount, that's basically a special function that you can use in the components. So that's going to be called when the component is mounted. But for this one, we just want to do a simple call. When the button is clicked, we're going to be calling the API, and then we're going to be console logging the results. We can do other stuff with it, error analysis, etc. Right now, we don't need to worry about that. And the API call that we're going to be doing is this one. All right, so in order to see the console log here and debug it, you will need to open up the developer console of the browser. And you can do that by going to the menu and over here, more tools, and then there's developer tools. So you can actually open this with F12 or Control-Shift-I on Mac. I think there's a similar Command-Shift-I. So when you open it, this is what you're going to be seeing. There's different tabs. And what we want to do is we want to look at the console and clear it. So whenever I click on, I'm going to be clicking on this now, and you can see in the console it writes test. So that test is actually coming from the server. So if I want to verify that API result, I can save it over here, and Control S saves the class code. Let's do it again over here. So now I'm gonna hit the button, and now it says API result test. So this is basically how you can debug the API on the client side. But what about the server side? So let's say I'm doing some. Let me just expand the code here so that it can be visible. So this is just a longer way of writing the same function. And let's say I'm debugging some stuff over here. I want to check what are the values that are sent by the client. So I'm just going to say parameter 1, parameter 2. And so this is going to, let's say, help me debug the problem. And again, I can hit Control S to save it, Control Shift M to minimize it. And yeah, so now I'm going to be clicking this button again. And now I look at the developer logs, and there's nothing. There's API result test, but where is this? So that actually is happening on the server side. So if we want to see the logs of the APIs, we have to look at the server side. And there's something called API logs for that purpose. So you can actually turn on the API logs. And while that's turned on, if you run the API from here and you can refresh, you can see that every execution of the API is going to be putting a new entry in this list. So in this case, you can see arguments were PRM1 and 2, and the output, this is basically the console log that we just wrote, values PRM1 and 2. Why? Because that's the value that we sent over here in the component. We sent PRM1 and 2. And yeah, so that's basically how you can debug your APIs. You can create your APIs. This is very, very easy to do. And you can actually even make them authenticated. Right now, this is a public API, so you can use it anywhere. But yeah, I mean, you can, yeah, I mean, obviously, the easiest way to call it from the WebDigital website with a button or mount event. And yeah, you can check out our videos for more examples of API calls. Thank you very much for watching.